Okay, hello. I got the most amazing question on one of my videos yesterday. Also, apologies for the outfit and the scenery. It is Saturday night, so we're keeping it a little bit more casual. So I will overlay the question for you, but essentially it's just asking about choreography specifically. Yesterday, I actually made a video about like the 3 phases to becoming a professional dancer. So this video is basically gonna be the 3 phases to becoming a choreographer. So let's get into it. So headshot. Unlike dance where headshots are like probably the most important material that you could have, for choreographers, this is probably the least important part. You definitely need a headshot, so don't think you can just get away with like a selfie or anything. But unlike dance, you don't need a million different headshots to showcase the different characters you can play as long as you have one professional headshot for you as a choreographer. Because let's be real, directors just want to know who they're working with. So as long as you have something that shows what you look like, you're good to go. Now, what does that leave? Your portfolio. This is the most important part. As a choreographer, I personally believe that your most valued assets are going to be your resume and your videos. In my opinion, they carry about equal weight. As for the resume, you have to have experience. There's no getting around that. You know, unlike dancers where you can kind of learn on the spot and you have guidance, choreographers are in positions of power. So you don't really have the luxury of like learning on the job. If you're hired as a choreographer, you have to do the job of a choreographer. So in order for anybody to actually take a chance on you, you need to have the resume that shows somebody should take a chance on you. I kind of view choreographers as like any corporate job that one might have. You're not going to become a supervisor or a manager without having the proper experience. Not that like dance is the entry-level position, because it's not. There's lots and lots of training that's needed for that position. But think of choreography as like the next step above that. If you want to be in that position of power, you need to prove that you're ready for it. And then moving on to the videos, yes, I do think a reel is really great. I think especially when we're considering like the general pitches that we do, we want to be able to showcase all of your stage shows, all of your music videos, all of your TV film, all of your commercials, and anything else that you might do. I would say maybe 80% of the time when I'm doing outreach on behalf of my clients, we kind of have a goal in mind, like a movie just got announced, or obviously like right now we're deep into commercials because we have Black Friday coming up. Maybe you have a specific artist in mind. So in those cases, I usually don't use a reel to pitch. I will go in and pick specific material, but we'll talk about that in a second. But if you are just reaching out to a director like, hey, take a chance on me, I don't care if it's a music video, a commercial, a small little social media campaign, like literally whatever, just put me in coach, then a reel is probably better so that you can showcase everything that you do. I think this is important stylistically as well. Even if you don't maybe necessarily choreograph like many different styles of dance, you do have to be able to show versatility in like the storylines that you can produce and the types of vibes that you can kind of fit. But like I said, as an agent, having multiple full-length videos that I can choose from when I'm pitching somebody is really, 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 really important. Like I cannot stress that enough. Let's just say I'm pitching an artist manager. I obviously know the artist if I'm pitching the artist manager. So I'm going through all of your materials to pick the absolute best stuff that I know fits this artist vibe. And it's honestly the same with brands. Just by looking at their past commercials and campaigns, I'm pretty clear on what it is that they would be looking for from a choreographer. Which kind of brings me to my point of training. I just kind of made these up like an hour ago, but bear with me. So I think there are 3 levels to this, in my personal opinion, which I'm gonna get to in a second. But before we dive into what exactly those 3 phases are, I just wanna say if you take nothing else away from this video, please just lock in right now with me for a second, because this is probably the most important part of this entire video. Know your goals right now. Trust me, I know firsthand just how much of an investment choreography is. You know, if you're doing concept videos, obviously it's a huge monetary investment. But if you're doing free music videos for like small artists, then it becomes a huge time investment. Either way, time is money. Money is time. So do not let that investment be for nothing. As silly as it may sound, I encourage you to make like a vision board or like a list of goals or just something so you have it on paper and you know what it is that you're trying to achieve. I think the biggest mistake that I see choreographers make is choreographing this super expensive concept that's also super time intensive, all because they like a song. Now don't get me wrong, passion projects are important and it's probably what makes you want to be a choreographer in the first place. But if you want to be a professional choreographer, you have to have materials that actually advance that goal. And 9 times out of 10, just a passion project is not going to do that. You know, I'll be honest, I have contemporary choreographers reaching out and they're like, hey, can you submit me to Beyonce or like a Zara Larson type vibe? And I'm like, all your videos are contemporary. Like, do we not see the disconnect here? Or same thing, I have like heels choreographers who choreograph to some pretty explicit songs. And then they're asking me, hey, can you submit me to like Disney and Target? And I'm like, that does not work. I would say there's nothing wrong with any aesthetic. Like, if you feel called to create certain pieces of art, that is wonderful. Like, do not force yourself to go in another direction because you're trying to fit into a different box. But you also have to be realistic. If I'm going to choreograph heels, sexy, explicit music, I probably can't do any type of like family friendly Disney, Target, Walmart. Like, that's probably just not gonna fit. Not probably, that's not gonna fit. I kind of feel like this is like social media, to be honest. You really don't need to target the entire internet out there. You just have to find your niche and then really hone in on it. And then once you've kind of found yourself and you feel really confident in yourself, that's when you can start to push those boundaries. And that's what's gonna make you undeniable. Okay, now after all that yapping, we finally get to, I would say, the point of this video. What are the 3 phases to becoming a choreographer? So in a nutshell, all of these things technically are training. So to answer your question, yes, training is important, but it's not anything like how dance is, obviously. So number 1 is teaching. I feel like teaching does a lot for choreographers. It teaches you skills that you probably aren't going to be able to pick up anywhere else. If you're teaching regular classes, it's kind of helping you to push that creative boundary, even through choreography blocks. Because hey, if you have a class on Thursday, you need to figure it out and have something to teach. So you're going to be able to push through those choreography blocks. It also allows you to know and then also improve your teaching style. You also get to work with all levels of dancers and make them look cohesive in like one single unit, which even when you're working with professional dancers, the goal is all the same, to make everybody look in sync. It also just gets your choreography out into the world. You can see it on other people's bodies and not just your own, and you get paid to do it, so why not? I think all of these are skills that you absolutely need, but I will also say there are many choreographers out there who are not also teachers. I'm just saying this is step 1 because I feel like it's the most logical. And not that teaching is easy by any means, but I do think it's easier to get into a teaching slot than it would be just to like go start choreographing music videos. So yeah, phase 1, I would say teaching. Go get a teaching slot. Phase 2, I'm gonna say shadowing. So I don't know, maybe I'm just like out of the loop, which is very possible. But from my perspective, it seems like nobody does this anymore, so please correct me if I'm wrong. But like 10 years ago when I was in the scene, my friends and I were constantly offering each other shadowing opportunities. I mean, not only does shadowing allow you to basically see how other choreographers work and how they bring their visions to life, but it also gives you the chance to see how maybe different sets work. You can also network with the crew, and overall, you just get to expose yourself to something different. So let's say you mainly do commercials, but you have a friend who mainly does TV film. These sets are gonna work differently. Same with like a live show, that's gonna be even more different. So shadowing really is the perfect way to expose yourself to these differences. And vice versa for your friend if you are exchanging shadowing opportunities. Now they get a chance to see what you do. And 9 times out of 10 back in the day when we would shadow, a lot of times in the future it would lead to assistant or associate, or sometimes even if they were already busy on a job, they might recommend you for that job instead. So anyways, like I said, the industry is ever changing. However, if shadowing is still a thing, I would say that's phase 2. So anyways, if shadowing's not a thing anymore, ask your friends, ask if you can shadow them. I don't think anybody's gonna say no to you. I mean, people are probably gonna say no to you if I'm being honest. But like, if they're in a position where they're in a place of power and they can bring you on, I don't see why they would say no. Okay, and then I kind of just mentioned this, but phase 3, assistant and associate choreography gigs. Videos are still important here, but I would say the most important piece to becoming an assistant or associate choreographer on a certain project is first and foremost networking. A close second is your resume, but number 1 is networking. If you don't know the players, how are you gonna make introductions to be able to get onto these projects? I've been using assistant and associate choreographer, I think as like maybe interchangeable. I just wanted to like make it clear right now, they're not interchangeable, they're 2 different jobs. But I think for the sake of becoming like the head choreographer, it doesn't really matter assistant or associate. The eventual goal is to become the head choreographer. I just wanted to like clarify that real quick. But anyways, I think to a certain extent, choreographer and assistant and associate choreographer are kind of like the same level that you're trying to continue to build upon. So I feel like this is kind of how I was talking about with dance, how it's kind of like the never-ending cycle. Yes, you should be choreographing things on your own. So whether that's doing like music videos here and there, or like I said, if you're more in the commercial world, or maybe you're doing more live stage, continue doing that stuff. But if you know, like, ultimate goal, I want to choreograph the next Wicked, that is something where you're not just going to be able to like jump into that role. You're going to need assistant and or associate choreographer credits to your name. And not only that, you're going to need it on projects that are comparable to what you're going for. So let's just say Wicked is what you're going for. You probably need to have associate or assistant credit from movies like La La Land, I don't know, the Michael Jackson biopic, Greatest Showman. I don't know, I'm trying to think of like all the dance movies that I can possibly think of right now. There's lots out there. But the point is, you need to be working on something so that somebody of that caliber on a different movie feels like they can trust you, because you already know how sets work on a movie setting, and especially at that kind of budget. If you don't have any credits like that, you're probably not going to get the head choreographer job. So just know it's always kind of building blocks. Yes, for an artist, you can probably choreograph and be head choreographer, no assistant, no associate, anything like that. Commercials kind of vary. I've seen assistants on commercials, but sometimes, you know, a choreographer just takes it all on by themselves. So anyways, I wish it was like a one size fits all, but as with most things in this industry, it's just a whole lot of gray area and you just kind of have to navigate it. I think the cycle for choreographers is more concept videos, booking a couple choreography gigs here and there, and then updating your resume. So I think that's kind of like the circle of life for choreographers. Again, just in my personal, professional opinion. I don't know. I hope this was helpful. Like I said, this was a very impromptu video. Hopefully you take something away from this. I think the number one thing that I just can't stress enough is, if you are going to invest in concept videos, kind of with the sole intention of bringing your ideas to life and showing, who knows, a producer, a director, a brand, an ad agency, an artist manager, whoever, it doesn't really matter. You want to be able to show them that you can take on their project, whatever it might entail. I would go into choreography and probably even your next concept video with the sole idea of, what is this for? I'm actually doing a content day for my choreographers in November, and that is like the thing that I just keep hammering into them. I want material from you with a goal. If you want to work with fitness brands, like, everybody better be in leggings and shorts and tank tops and tees. Everybody better have their athletic shoes on. You guys better be doing movements that actually speak to the clothing or the brand or the overall identity that that brand carries. Or same with artists. When they are watching these videos, they want to see themselves in the videos. And if you're doing choreography that, even if it's like super interesting, super cool, but that artist knows, like, that's not my vibe, that's not who I am, that's not what I want to be known for, then once again, you're just wasting your time. Okay, I hope that was helpful. Ask more questions. I love questions. Give me more. So leave a comment, please like, please subscribe, and I will see you on Friday.